Well, hello, everybody, and happy Saturday. I hope it's a happy Saturday for you. It is for me. It's always a happy Saturday because it's a weekend. The weekend's here, and we'll crack open a beer. Maybe a little later. A little too early in the morning right now for me to do that. But like they say, it is 5 o'clock somewhere, right? Right. Uh, I thought I would pop one here before I take my daughter to her company softball game and do a little drawing. It says, let's redraw a cover. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to show you guys here in a second what I'm talking about. I'm just getting some stuff here. Marcus Keller Group. No, I am not playing. It is my daughter's work softball league. As everybody knows, because I like to say it, she does not drive. So I take her and I watch as they play. So before we get started, of course, I would like to, if you don't know, I'm Andy Smith, 35-year veteran of the comic book industry, having worked for Marvel, DC, Image, Acclaim, CrossGen, and many more companies. Now I currently publish my own stuff through Astonishing Comics. The main property I do now is Kor-Drath, and the main one that we're focusing on now is Lilineth, Infernal Conflict, which is right here. Lilineth, Infernal Conflict. Lilineth is the sexy succubus warrior that spins out of Kor-Drath. If you've never read Kor-Drath, have no fear. This is a one-off story all about Lilineth and her rise to power. You don't have to know anything about Kor-Drath to enjoy this book, but if you want to read Kor-Drath, in the rewards, there is a catch-up tier you can get, or I should say in the add-ons, you can get Kor-Drath 1 and 2. But if not, you can just get Lilineth, who is a very sexy succubus warrior going up against brutal incubus warriors. Succubus are the chicks, incubus are the males, demons, and it's good fun stuff. So go check that out. Lots of fun stuff on the campaign that you can get. And here's a page I just finished yesterday where the battle is raging on between the succubus warriors and the incubus warriors on the outside of the obsidian spire, while on the inside, Lilineth and a few of her allies are going up against Demon Lord Vixarion. So lots of stuff going on, even in this page. I mean, look at all this stuff. I am working my tail off for you guys on this book. Great art, great story. Go check it out. It doesn't look like the succubi are faring too well in this fight. So anyhow, go check that out. Let's minimize that. And let's get to the topic where I say redrawing a cover. And you're like, well, what cover are you redrawing, Andy? Well, I'll tell you. So back about 30 years ago, I did the insides of this book, Superboy Plus, The Power of Shazam. And it was a team up where Superboy teamed up with Captain Marvel Jr. I don't want to give too much away. It was a fun book. Ron Mars wrote it. I did the pencil and inks. I pulled this image off the internet. It's a little blurry, but for what I'm doing, it doesn't matter that it's fuzzy. I can't read the date. I want to say it was 1995, so 31 years ago is when this came out. But I did not draw the cover. Gary Frank did. And I like Gary Frank's work, but I kind of wish I was able to do the cover. There was another issue called Supergirl Plus with Supergirl and I believe Mary Marvel, and Gary Frank did the cover for that one, I believe, as well. I don't remember who did the insides. Anyhow, I was asked as a commission to redo the cover to this book. So the person owns the book, and they bought it because they like my art and stuff, and they want my version of the cover. So when I do stuff like that, behind this, let me turn this layer off. I've got DC cover stock. This is Silver Age cover stock right here. What's up, Marcus and Don? This is Silver Age cover stock from DC. But when I get to the actual inking, I'll print it out on this cover stock and in blue to do the actual inking, But drawing wise, I'll do it the quote unquote digital pencils. This is Clip Studio. Let me just see real quick if I can find current DC comic cover stock to use. Because they do have a specific type of layout, but I don't know if that's something I'll be able to find through a Google image search. No, nope, it's showing blank covers, which is totally different. I used to have DC cover stock, obviously, because I drew a lot of covers and worked for DC. Well, not a lot of covers, but I did draw some covers for DC. But apparently I don't have it anymore, or I would scan it and I can't find it through a quick search. So I don't care enough. So anyhow, what I'll do is I've got this cover on a different layer, and I'll reduce the opacity of it. And the reason I'm doing it this way is it will be in my style. Now, I'm not just going to trace off. There's a couple ways you could do it. I could trace off the outlines of the characters here. And let me rename this layer to pencils. Let me save it just in case anything crashes. I have it still. Let's see. I'll save this to my work and sketches. I have a folder labeled sketches because that's what this would fall under. And I have a label folder called cover stock. Called final drawing. Superboy Plus cover redraw. Save it as a Photoshop document, because in Clip Studio, it's the only way you'll preserve your layers. You save it as a TIFF, even though you can do layers with a TIFF file. In Photoshop, you can save it, but in Clip Studio, if you save a TIFF, it'll still flatten it. So I save it as a PSD file, which will preserve the layers. Anyhow, so I could, let me get my pencil tool. That is way too big. So I could just do the outlines. And what I mean by that is, I'll just show you a quick example. I could, and this would keep Gary's proportions and stuff. So I could basically, oh, I got to change the image size. Hold on. This image size is too small. I can just tell the resolution. Oh yeah, 72, too small. Oh yeah, this needs to be at least 300. So let me change the image resolution. Oh, boom. Okay, now zoom in some on it. So I could stick to the outline that Gary did. Oop, too fat. Try 15. So basically, this is his outline, right? And this is not how I'm going to do it. This is just an example of one way I could do it if I want to preserve the inside, the exact composition in regards to placement of figures. This is one way I could do it. So I do the outline, but then on the interior, I do how I do anatomy, right? So like, and it's not too far off. Gary and I have kind of the same influences there. I will change some stuff. So this is one way, and this is not how I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep the figure positioning that he has, but draw it all the way in my my style, because I do proportions differently and stuff like that. Plus, the person I'm doing this for wants it to look like the inside of the book. So it would be my style. He also wants it to reflect the style I drew the inside of the book at the time I did this job, which is different from how I do stuff now. So I will also do that as well. This is one way to do it, and then you turn it off and you go, oh, that's kind of my style. But like I said, I don't want to do that. I want to do it totally from scratch, but I want to keep the same placement. So let me get rid of this and start over. Oops, I totally forgot that there's nothing on that layer. So I just wanted to delete that, not fill it. Because when I turn off both layers, the paper layer, you can see it's totally transparent back there. So I need that paper layer on so I can see. All right, so back to this. So I want to keep the positioning of the figures that Gary did, but I want to do it in my my style. So to do that, and I'll be honest, I wouldn't. This cover isn't super dynamic. I like Captain Marvel because he's at least not flat on. He's coming at us some in perspective. However, Superboy is just flat, straight on, no dynamic to it, no perspective, and the foot's cropped as well. So I might tilt Superboy forward some, and then his foot won't crop. What movie review are we getting this week? Unfortunately, Dennis was out of town this past week, so I didn't see anything. Next week, I have to see what comes out. So I don't know yet. All right. So, oops. Might want to use black. Okay. So keep the positioning. I'm going to boost my pencil up a little bit here. So you can see I'm changing it up some just even as I'm drawing over. These guys are teenagers, so they're not going to be obviously super buff. I did get to draw in this book Superman and Shazam, but were they the real Superman and Shazam? Oh, you'd have to buy the book to find out. I'm not telling. You can see when I do the drawing, I'm really just thinking about basic shapes. I'm not getting into anatomical detail and stuff. Oh, Darren Wagner, $2. Thank you. This is going to be good. I love Junior. So do I. When I got to do this job, I didn't care that I didn't do the cover. I was just thrilled I got to draw these characters. Let me guess. Dennis is on his 5th vacation of the year, 5th, 6th, 7th. Man, who knows? I lost track. That man's on vacation so much. So this is basically a mannequin I'm doing here, and this is how every artist should start their drawing. Don't worry about anatomy. Get your good basic shapes down and stuff first. I'm going to have this arm coming at us, just like this one's coming at us. It's raised up some. And then the leg is coming out. And then going back. I always do my contour lines like that so I can, when I start doing anatomy, I can wrap things properly. I'm also streaming on Rumble, of course, my YouTube channel, X as well. I don't think I clicked Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. Now, see, this leg is kind of stiff the way Gary did it, so I'm going to throw it back a little more, give a nice curve. I'm also going to throw his foot back some as well. Darren Wagner says, oh, and back Demi-Foot on Fund My Comic if you haven't. That's right, guys. Go check out Fund My Comic. Go back Demi-Foot. Oh, Genuine Comics is in the house. Genuine Comics does some great stuff. He's going to be doing, he's working with Alan Goldman, who is a fantastic artist, and he just posted up a link to a sign-up page for a pencil edition of a book Alan is doing, which I love crap like that, so I will be backing it. There we go. Now look, guys, remember, basic shapes. No anatomy yet. Just the basics. Just the basics, baby. You get the basic shapes down, you don't have to know tons of anatomy. I can tease this. I can't show it, but my buddy Bart Sears did a cover for a convention variant of G.I. Joe number 330. And let me tell you, it kicks ass. Snake Eyes and Scarlet are on it, and it is awesome. So I will move heaven and earth to get a copy of it. Now I'm throwing in some anatomy, real simple, basic stuff. We could call this Andy's Art School. Should I do a weekly art school live draw stream? Let me know. In fact, let me see something here if I can do this. Let's see. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I think. I'm trying to see something here. I thought. No, it's not there. That's not it. No, that's not it. I thought I could add a poll, but I can't. So never mind. All right, back to drawing. Oh, wait. Hold on. Let me see something here. Nope, that's not it either. Never mind. No. I'm not going to create my own draw stream to compete with Graybeards. Any Smiths. Come on, Genuine Comics. Slap a D in my name. It's Andy. But I do like that acronym. No, I was thinking maybe do a once a week live draw stream where I could pick a topic or take questions, on how to draw something. I don't know, maybe have artists on that are having problems with stuff and I could, bring them in and show them. I don't know. Anyhow, not Superboy, Captain Marvel Jr. is almost done. You should do a weekly stream where you work through how to draw dynamic comics, updating and improving the chapters, collect it when done in an anniversary crowdfunding campaign. That's not bad. I could try that maybe. All right. Now I know these are teenagers, but I'm going to probably make the head a little bit smaller than what Gary did. Be smiling. Hey, look at me. I'm Captain Marvel Jr. Freddie Freeman or whatever his name is. So there's his figure blocked in good enough. I remember working on this and kind of getting some criticism because I was drawing Freddy and Superboy pretty ripped in the book, pretty well defined and stuff. Not bulky, but just kind of, little body fat and and oh, they're teenagers, and I'm like, okay, I've seen a lot of teenagers uh, in movies and stuff that are pretty shredded. So what's your point? Kind of annoyed me. All right, let's work on Superboy here. Uh-oh, what happened? Did I close it? I really hope it saved because that's going to piss me off. Yeah, I don't know what happened. That's weird. I hit Control S. Okay, whatever. All right, let me work on Superboy. Like I said, I'm going to tilt Superboy forward. I like Freddy back there like that. But I'm going to tilt Superboy forward. I might make Freddy a little bigger too. Oh no, I didn't like this version of Superboy. I hated drawing the jacket. I thought the jacket was just stupid, but whatever. So anyhow, I'm going to keep the shoulder tilt the same, but I'm going to throw him back in perspective some and add a little more tilt to his waist. And if he's coming forward, that means his body's going to be tipped forward a little bit. And then because he's coming forward, I'll make this fist a little bigger for perspective reasons, of course. When you're drawing foreshortening, you want to draw whether it's the hand or the foot first, and then draw the arm or leg to it. I'm giving a nice curve like this because his arm's not fully straight, but it's not bent a lot either. So it gives a nice little bit of motion to it. And this arm I'm going to pull back a little bit more. Adds a little more dynamic to it. Nice curve there. And this leg is coming forward. I'm going to have it come forward a little more. Like that. No, I'm not correcting Gary Frank. I'm redoing this cover because I drew the interior of the book, but I didn't draw the cover. And I got a commission where somebody really likes what I did, but they wish I did the cover. So they're paying me to draw the cover. And I want to keep it as close because they like what Gary Frank did, but they want my version of it. So I'm making some changes to what Gary did, but I wouldn't say I'm correcting it. So I am a Gary Frank fan. I loved Gary Frank's Incredible Hulk stuff. Now, there are things on this cover, if I was the editor, I would have changed when Gary sent in the cover sketch. I would have asked for Superboy to be in a little more perspective because he's just kind of flat. And I would have also said, even if I didn't do that, I would say, can we move Superboy up a little bit so his foot doesn't crop off the bottom of the cover? They were working on the second issue was that's right. I'm Andyfying it. The second cover was drawn by Gary Frank, I believe, as well. It was Supergirl and Mary Marvel. They were being worked on at the same time. I don't remember if they came out a month apart. The books came out a month apart or a week apart, but whatever the schedule was, it wouldn't allow for the same artist to draw each book. That's why. And I'm glad I got to do this one and not the Mary Marvel. I'm sad that I sold some of their originals from this, so I don't own the whole book. My best friend from I've known since third grade owns the splash page with Superman and Shazam. However, I gave that to him because he's a huge Superman fan. See, now we got Superboy here in perspective. And when I do this cover, I'm going to try and get all the assets at the top here in black and white so I can print them right onto the Bristol board as well. So now Superboy's coming at us. Get his head tilt right here. Have him looking at us, looking at the reader. There. So then when I turn off that layer, Gary Frank was the perfect after Dale Keown artist for Incredible Hulk. He retained the defined muscles of Keown's version, but was still distinctive. He did. Mary Marvel plus Supergirl. Call it Jailbait plus. Oh. So this is what it's looking like. Now, I might make Superboy. I don't know. I've got this is a commission, so it's never going to be printed. So I don't have to worry about it cropping, so I can get close to the edge. So I might actually blow these guys up. Transform, scale up and down to fill the space better. And because of I got more room down here now that his foot. I can do this. And like I said, it's never going to be printed, so I can draw to the edge. And then the logo, look at that. His fist is barely overlapping the logo, which for this is fine. In fact, on this DC stuff, let me just get rid of this. I don't want to get rid of that, but this bullet is old. So, oops. So I might have to take my copy of this book and scan it in so I can have a nice high resolution image of the logo and stuff. But hopefully I can find it in black and white. And I can scale that down just for placement since it's still on here, but I'll get a new one. But I'm actually hopefully going to make it over to a shop today because there's an issue of Hulk that I don't have that Gary Frank drew that Joe Rubinstein inked, and I loved it. So I'm going to try and find that as well. And then I also want to get the first issue of Hulk that Dale Keown drew because I don't have that either. I still think Captain Marvel's head, oops, edit, advance fill. Okay, I think my Captain Marvel head is probably a little big, even though he's coming at it. So I'm going to reduce that down a little bit. There we go. That's better. Nice thing about working digital, if I was working on paper, I'd have to erase it, which forget about it. I'm not erasing it. So now I can do a new layer. I can lower the opacity of this one and do a new layer where I tighten up the anatomy and add some costume details and stuff like that. So let me do that. Let's save it. Mike Manley, Brett Blevins, John Nyberg penciled Supergirl Plus. I wonder what Brett did. I wonder how Mike and Brett split it. I'll have to look at that issue because I actually don't own it. The first issue of Hawk that Dale Keown drew was the final issue of the 4-part countdown story. He was inked by Maurice Severin. It was pretty dang good, but this later inker was a tad better, in my opinion. Oh yeah, Maurice Severin. I remember looking at it. The Incredible Hulk 423 for the Gary Frank Joe Rubinstein issue. Yes, that is the one I want to get. And then, yeah, I know it was inked by Maurice Severin, and I thought about skipping it and just getting the second issue he did, but I want the first issue that Dale did. Trust me, Bob McLeod, Mark Farmer, much better job, pairing, but I do want to get the first issue. Gary Frank's Supergirl. I have a trade paperback of the first few issues of that, and it is great. It is so nice. All right, I'll make the pencil a little smaller. 2 retro editions left, guys. That's right. There are 2 retro editions left of Lilineth Infernal Conflict. What is the retro edition? Well, I'll tell you. It is a limited newsprint edition of Lilineth Infernal Conflict. That's right, printed on newsprint, a distressed cover, flat colors as well to take you back in time to the beautiful newsprint era of comic books. It's going to smell great. It's going to look great. It's stapled. There's only 100 copies, 2 left, signed and numbered by Dennis myself with certificate of authenticity. So go back it now. All right, back to this. Let me tighten up some pencils here. So I always like to just do a little cleaner Now, if I was just going to print this out, if this wasn't for a video like I'm doing now, I could print this and tighten the pencils up on paper and then slap ink on it. But because of this video, I'm going to do a little more to it. So when I print it, I could probably just go right to inks. Once again, I'm not going to go too crazy with the anatomy because they're teens, but I'll do a little more than what Gary did. Captain Marvel has a thicker belt, so I don't really need to worry about drawing more abs down there because his belt would cover it. Right, it has a barbarian in that issue too. That's another reason I want to get that issue of Hulk, because there's a barbarian in it. This dude works out. You can see a little ab definition below the belt. Who's watching that Gina Carano fight tonight? This guy is. As much as I like Ronda Rousey, I hope Gina wins. Uh, Gary is Doomsday Clock. Oh yeah, Doomsday Clock was great. I did like his Squadron Supreme stuff as well. What is this? Hold on, I got a text message. Got to see if it's anything important. Oh, cool. Nothing super important, but something cool. His outer calf muscle is higher than his lower. I mean, his outer calf muscle is higher than the inner side, is what I meant to say. And because of that, the ankles are the opposite. So if the outer calf muscle peaks higher, that means the outer ankle is lower. And the inside ankle is a little higher. But you won't really see it that much, so no big deal. Do his heel. stuff like that. I can tighten up more once it's printed out. I'm more interested in Gina's fight than a new Star Wars movie. Well, actually, Courtney and I are seeing the new Star Wars movie next week. She's a huge Star Wars fan. So I know her and I are going. Dennis has no interest, so he will not be going to it with us. Big baby is what I call him, because it's like, dude, you made me see movies I didn't want to see, so go see Star Wars and shut your mouth. That's what I say. It's like Supergirl. I don't know if he's going to go see that or not, but I will. Well, good morning, Jeremy. Always draw through. Even if I was doing this on paper, I would. Drawing down. This is the inside calf, so it's a little lower than the outside. And because it's lower, the inside ankle is a little higher. We won't even see the ankle on the outside of the view of this leg, so it doesn't matter. Pop in the heel. Taking into account the foot's going back in perspective as well. Now, I did a lot of that foot going back in perspective in my head. Like I visualized it in my head, but I'll show you real quick how you would do it if you weren't visualizing it in your head. 1 second. So let me add a layer so I can show you. Lose that. Oops, no, I want to keep that opacity, lower this opacity. So thinking about this foot, drawing through the cylinder of the leg going back, it's like this. So if you think of the lower leg as a cylinder, because it's going back in perspective, it would look like that. So the foot, the ankle comes out, comes from this backside, comes from the inside like this, and this is blocking it in. This is the back of the heel. And I'm drawing just the flat part of the foot, the bottom of the foot, as a rectangle like that, right? And then it arches down from the front like this. So that's how I have the foot blocked in, so it looks like it's going back in perspective. Then I'll just do another layer. Let me save this. So that's that. Then I would draw over top of that. That's why I said I did some of it in my head, where your foot, if you divide the bottom of the foot into thirds, actually, let me do that on another layer. So you got the bottom of the foot. If you divide it into thirds, remember perspective, like that. If you divide the bottom of the foot into thirds, this back third is the heel, which is round. Then the inside of the foot has the cut in arch like that to the front third, and then it swoops around, and that goes a little bit outside of that box. It swoops around to where the big toe is, and then the outside of the foot arches out just a little bit right about the midway point, and then back in for the little toes, and that's the bottom of the foot. Okay. And then you can connect the heel, and you see how it goes around, so it's not totally flat. And then the arch comes down from the front, but a foot has a thickness to it, a boot. So depending on how thick it is, you just pull this line up and then around like that. And then when you erase out this draw through stuff, you've got a foot in the right perspective. So there you go. Look at that. Just showed you drawing a foot. Looking at Gene Colan comics. Oh man, Gene's great. So anyhow, let me turn that back off, get back to the real stuff here. Boost that back up. All right. But I did all that in my mind's eye, and it works for me. And then another thing with this arch is from the ankle, if you swoop down like that, comes down to where the foot cuts in, you've got the arch and then the heel. So, boom. Okay. Enough of that. Let's get up here, do some more. This trapezius comes down. And the easy thing with the trapezius is if you draw through, it connects down to the lat like that. Get that belt. So anyhow, that's how you get that swoop. His arm's coming forward. Once again, he's not super bulky, so I'm keeping the forearms a little thinner. So the bicep comes around. Tricep peaks up here because your outer tricep is higher than the lower. And then it comes down, and there's a thing called a condyle, which is you can feel the outside bone. Justin Side says, you always draw very long torsos on everything you do. It's cool, unique. Is that a conscious stylistic decision? Yeah, I think it is. I don't think this guy's torso is that long. I think it depends on the character, but it is a stylistic decision because if you're drawing a heroic 8-head high figure, it's going to lengthen aspects of it. So this is a condyle. You can feel it on your arm. His arm is coming at us like this. So it squares out like that, which means down here. The other condyle is here, which you can't see, and his elbow, which you can't see, is right here. And this tricep on the outside connects to that condyle like that. And then this arm's coming at us, so the forearm's going to overlap. And this muscle goes up, overlaps the tricep, and this angle hits that condyle and then wraps back around. Like that. And then the forearm. That's that bone we all have on our pinky side of our hand, wrist. Like that. You got that muscle. Now, I'm not going to show all these muscles on the final drawing, but I do like sketching them in. Like that. And his shoulder comes down. And because we're looking, the arm's coming at us some, the shoulder wraps around here. But then when it hits here, it's going to curve a little bit like that because this arm is coming at us. So that helps show that. And then, you got the middle head of the deltoid that comes like this. And then you can see a little bit of the outer head of the shoulder muscle deltoid. Like I said, I'm not going to indicate all this stuff on the final, but I like drawing in this stuff so I can see it. So there's the forearm on them. I might thin this out some. And then you've got these little serrat muscles here, which come off a 45-degree angle from the pit of the neck, collarbone. So if you swing a 45 down, you can pop in these muscles accurately. And then your obliques overlap like that. And then the latissimus dorsi back muscle comes down and goes around to the back. So like that. Let's do the other arm now. Drawing through, the trap wraps around like this. His shoulder is pulling back some, so it's a little higher. Because you can see his arm is coming back, so that pulls the shoulder back. Which will bring the chest out here a little further. Clean this up so you can see it, because it's stretching as he's pulling back. And you can see the bicep here, which is really foreshortened. If you drew through, that would be the top of the arm. Bicep comes down, wraps around like that. If you draw the tricep through, and this is the top of the cylinder of his forearm, the tricep comes from back here, wraps around like it does on this side, and then comes down, so you don't see much of it at all. His forearm is going back. So this is his wrist. The forearm, the outside of the forearm muscle peaks higher, and the inside is lower, like that. And then if you draw through the wrist like this, so you can see the foreshortening of the wrist, then when you draw the fist, you've got the hand coming out. That's the knuckle of the index finger. And then back here, if you draw through, it comes out. And then that's the pinky back there, which you can't see. Finger comes down, back into the palm. It's not a side view, so if we were seeing it, you'd see the front of that finger as it tucks in. The thumb comes down. The thumb bone attaches at the bottom of this wrist, comes down. That's the first part of your thumb bone. And then the second part wraps around like this. And then the meaty part of your thumb comes from this first joint, goes up to that knuckle. And then the main pad on your palm comes around and goes to the middle of your wrist for the overlap like that. And then when you erase all this crap out, you've got the hand going back into proper perspective for when you do your finished drawing. And then on the front side, you can see kind of the bone here. You've got the padding here of the muscle and stuff. Like that. Now the arm's going back. And then the forearm muscle comes down, because this muscle comes down and wraps around to the underside of the wrist. This other muscle comes down and wraps around too. And then the top muscle here goes around and attaches on the top of the wrist. So you got that. So then, oh, let me do this hand. Forgot the other hand. So from the middle of the wrist, so this is the wrist, if you're drawing through, and it's angled some, so you can see the side of it here, and then the top, side, bottom. The pinky comes straight out. And then if you look at your fist, the middle finger, basically, if you pull this straight out, that's the middle finger right there. And then swoops around this way to the index finger like that. And that gives you that nice curve of the fingers. And then the bones and stuff all radiate out from the center of the wrist. And now his hand's just coming right out at us. It's not bent down or anything. The finger, front index finger bends down. And then all these other fingers bend down as well. And you can kind of keep that nice curve sweep going across like that. And then remember, if you look at your own fist, they tuck down, the fingers tuck in as they wrap around. The middle finger is longer, so it comes down a little further. And then each finger after that, the ring finger is a little shorter, and the pinky finger is shorter than that. And then the thumb, remember, comes down from the bottom of the wrist like that, and then cuts in, and you got the meaty part right there. So then when you erase all this stuff, you've got the fist drawn in with the knuckles and stuff all in the proper place and everything. Like that. And then, if you want, you could indicate a little bit of the tendons and stuff from his fist like that. If you want. It depends. If somebody's got a really fat hand, you're not going to see any of that crap on top. Knuckles come down. And once again, I like having all this stuff here, so when I do the final pencils or inking, at that stage, I can decide what I want to take out and leave in. So there's that one. Now let's reduce this down. See what we got going on. And he's not looking too bad. Freddie Freeman. Dun, dun, dun. Now I'll go over and do Superboy. I always, and this is, I don't know if it's a bad habit, but I will say I always generally do the heads last, because that takes me a little more concentration and time. So pull that oblique in some like that. Like I said, you wouldn't see these through the belt necessarily. Let's see. I got to see what his chest symbol looks like. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. So his chest symbol. The chest symbol in there like that. Oh, yeah. And then he's got his wrist or his hands are open. So you just use the contour of the wrist to go around like that. And this one's already there. His boots, I believe, are halfway. Yeah, they're about halfway down the lip, the top of the boot. So, and then they have that full Buccaneer type. That I'm thinking about how they curve around. That. So I take this out. That. And I gotta see his gloves real quick. This muscle attaches here. Kneecap, knee bends. The lower muscle attaches down here. Bony landmark. Let me see what his gloves look like. Oh, yeah, they curve around like that. Turn that off. I believe, like Shazam, it has that little up part. On this angle, you won't see that up part because it's back on the back side of the arm. And I know it has the contour lines going around the glove. I can do that. I can do that later, Gator. So let's see. So there you go. Let's do Superboy. I've been practicing drawing after not drawing much for 20 years. I found I've gotten a little better drawing the feet or lower body first and the head last. I generally start with the torso, and then after the torso, I'll do the lower body or the arms, and then the head. But that's me. Let's erase this. All right. Let's get Superboy going. I'm Superboy. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, na-na-na-na. This arm is coming back some. So the clavicle gets pulled back a little bit. Remember, the clavicle is not straight. The clavicle starts from the pit of the neck, goes back, and then the bone is actually curved like that. So that is the clavicle. And where it cuts back like that is where the shoulder muscle kind of attaches to help get the shape of the chest. Even though he's wearing a jacket, I'll sketch in some of the anatomy. I'm not going to get really detailed because he is wearing a jacket, so the sleeve will cover it. So I'm just more worried about what the outline of the anatomy looks like. Chest comes down. This side swoops up. Now, guys, his arm is coming up like this. This chest muscle attaches on the other side of the arm. So we've got the bicep here, right? Being stretched, and this chest muscle comes up, goes around, and actually attaches over here. So it comes around and attaches over here, which means all this is being pulled from over here. And that's why you'll have on really big guys, not necessarily Superboy here, but big guys, you'll see this pull the chest come down and it covers the clavicle. So you won't even see any of the bone of the clavicle because of how the muscles are overlapping it like that. And then the deltoid comes up and it really flattens out. And once again, he's wearing a jacket, so I'm not that worried about it, but it really flattens out and comes around to this other side as well, like that. But it is flat. And you only see the front head of the deltoid at this view. Whereas on this view, with it being pulled back, you'd see the second and part of the third back there. And then his trap gets pulled back some because he's pulling his shoulder back. And on this side, it raises because the scapula is raising up. So the trap raises up some as well. Once again, he's wearing a jacket, don't really care. Yeah, Superman with a leather jacket. Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, is my favorite character. I hate that DC just gave up the name. It was Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. Oh. Anyhow, there's that. Let's do his abs. I always pop the center line again down to the crotch. His rib cage, the bottom of his rib cage is going to move with the same angle as his chest because the rib cage is a solid object. So I can't stand it when I see people that'll tilt the torso where a chest will be like this angle, right? This is the chest. And then they'll do the rib cage like this. That can't happen because the chest muscles are attached to the rib cage. So if the chest is going this way, the rib cage has to go that way too. The abs are the accordion that move. And then this is how I line up. The first set of abs is with the bottom of the rib cage, like that. The next set of abs can stretch and pull because how the hips are going. And then the next set, you generally want to have in the same direction as the hips. And that gets you that nice accordion and shows the stretch and pull of the abs. And then the obliques, of course, since they're attached to the top of the hip, go with the direction of the hips, waist. Like that. And that gets you that nice nice movement and stuff. Gotta stay conscious of the time so I get my kid to her game one time. So anyhow, that's that. I'll clean up as I go. Even if I was doing this on paper, I would clean up stuff just like this as I go. Remember the Surratt muscles, 45-degree angle. By the way, the 45-degree angle also lines up if this guy was shirtless, where the nipples would go. But he's not shirtless, so no nips will be seen. But the Surratts line up like that. And this is being stretched so they can stretch out as well. And then this arm is pulled back, which is pulling his latissimus dorsi back. And the lat attaches under the arm pit. Like that. Now, even on a teenager, I want to give a nice Y shape to a male figure. So that lat might technically be a little big for a teenager, but I don't care because it's comics and I want him to have that hero type Y shape. So back up here, this arm's coming up. We've got the wrist right there. So I block the wrist in and then has that curve. And then about a third of the forearm, you split the length of the forearm in thirds. The top third is more of a square shape like that. And then the bottom third is round. And remember, the peak of the inner side of the forearm is higher, and then the outer side is lower. And then this is higher because it connects on the upper arm back here. And then this is lower. The inner muscle mass. And then on this side, at this view, you'll see this bony landmark here, which is the inner condyle, which is the inner bone from the upper arm bone, the humerus. And then the tricep connects back here. And once again, he's not a huge guy. So the inner part of the tricep is a little lower. So it comes around like this. And the bicep, this view is like this. And if you were to block this off, it would look like that. And you've got this one muscle here. I don't know the name of it, but it comes in on the inside of your upper arm like that, almost goes to the middle. And then you've got the little one here coming from underneath the pec. It goes almost to the middle as well. Is this similar to a lecture like they would give at the Kubert School when they taught anatomy? I mean, kind of, yeah, kind of. And then back here, you can see the third head of the deltoid, sorry, like that. Now, if this was a really big dude, you might not see the third head because the latissimus dorsi, the lat muscle, is so big, but he's a thinner dude, so you would. The scapula in the back here is popping out. It rotates out. And by doing that, the latissimus dorsi comes down and hits it, and then swoops back down to the back. Now, the thing is, the tricep connects in the back of the body, and the lat actually connects underneath in the armpit like this. It kind of drives me nuts when I see people attach the tricep in the front because it doesn't. And erase that, this, and then the forearm muscles up here. These inner muscles basically form a shape like this, but then it's divided into roughly 3 like this. So this inner one connects up here on the wrist, and then this one connects here, and then this one comes up, the outer one, and connects right here on the side. And then the forearm, this comes around like this to connect here, and then this one comes around to connect there. But he's not that ripped where you're going to see all that, so it doesn't really make a difference. But for this teaching video, I'll show it. And then with his abs, what I'll do is I'll erase them out, but I still want to see them, so I'll do the density a little less so I can still kind of see what I drew in there. And then I can pencil back over top of it of how I would actually do it if this wasn't a teaching type video. Stretch those muscles. So now you can see a little bit clearer like that. These don't have to be so prominent anymore. All right, let's do the other arm. Oh, I should save this. 11 o'clock. I got till noon. Or I got to 11:45. Let's see what I can get done. Do that anatomy. This leg's coming forward. The center of the leg is like this because it's tilted some. This is knee. Inner thigh muscle. The inner thigh muscle teardrop is lower than the outer. So this angle shows that the outer connects a little higher up. Comes down, knee. This muscle right here on the outside wraps around and connects to the outside of the leg. And then the middle thigh muscle comes down and around and connects. When I say connects, I mean what you see on the outside. Do the teardrop about halfway down it. Like that. Digital seems so foreign to me. It did to me for a while, but once I started using it, you know, it's just another tool in the toolbox. Leg goes back. Now, how did I figure out the ankle's back here? Well, because if this is the leg, which basically hip bone, kneecap, ankle, it's about the same length, and it swings on an arch. So from the side, 90-degree swing, it's the same length, you know. But if it's foreshortened back, it can fall anywhere. The ankle can fall anywhere on this line. So I could put it right here. And then that means this leg is flat on, but then this is going back like that. And it arches down like that. So when I'm doing in my head, I can see this arch come down from there. And that's how I know where the ankle goes. And then the inner calf muscle is lower. And the outer is higher. And then you got the ankle here. And then the inner ankle is higher. And the outer is lower if you were to draw the ankles. And then the heel comes off the foot like that. It's going back. So that's the base of the foot, like I showed previously. And then if you cut that in thirds, you got the heel, the arch, and then the front of the foot, big toe, comes around. The arch from the top comes down. Little toe. And then that is basically getting the foot in the proper perspective back there. And the heel, of course, is rounded. It's not square at the base, which you can stylize it to be square, but then you want to keep the stylization consistent throughout the drawing. Like that. Let's erase all this stuff. All right, now we draw this leg that's going back. Remember, lower muscle teardrop inside the thigh is lower on the inside, higher on the outside. That's where I get this angle from. And then from up here, it comes down, it pops out just a wee bit, and then swoops down to that, like that. And that's how I get a nice clean outline. And then the knee area, if you were to draw this through, the knee area is a smaller little cylinder that comes down, drawing through like that. And then the calf curves in, the shin bone, I should say, gives you this nice sweep curve to the ankle. Remember, the inner ankle is higher than the outer ankle, which is lower, because the inner calf muscle is lower and the outer calf muscle is a little higher, like that. And then swoops down, draw through. Now you don't see the heel because he's kicking his foot back and the heel's back here where you can't see it. So you see the front of the foot playing down. And it goes, gives you this shape. You erase this draw through stuff. Oops. That, and then for the knee, if you want to get technical, if this is the front of the knee area, joint, whatever you want to call it, straight on, if you cut it in half, these are the bone. This is the base of the bone for the thigh bone, the thigh bone. And then this is the base for the two bones of the shin. And the knee basically goes right above the patella. Your kneecap goes right a little above the halfway point. And you've got this bony tendon, whatever here. So in foreshortening like this, if this is the knee area going back, foreshorten, these are the bones. The knee pops off some, and that's kind of how you can figure it out. So you can just cut that in half, keep the contour, knee goes above it some, like that. So you have some dimensionality to your figures to make them look 3D. And at the leg, you got this muscle that comes from up here and swoops around to the outside. It's that real long one. The teardrop muscle right here in the middle that comes down. The outer thigh muscle and the inner right there. All right, let's do this forearm. You've got the wrist here. Curves back. That's the condyle, outer condyle bone the tricep connects to. So you got this nice curve. And then the inside part comes around like that. This is going back, so it's overlapping. So we'll see a little curve there. The outside forearm muscle comes down and connects. And then remember where it connects on the inside, so it wraps around some. And then the one below it comes around. And then down here is the other one that connects like that. So then you can erase this stuff and you can see how all that connects. And then remember the fist, if he's not bending his wrist that much, this is the outside of the inside of the forearm where the pinky comes, and it comes off straight. And that's the pinky. And then it curves around, and this side, if you pull it out straight, is where the middle finger is. Then you've got the ring finger, the pinky, and then the index finger. Like that. Clean this up some. So you got that nice curve. And then index finger, middle finger's a little taller, longer, ring finger shorter, and then pinky finger shorter. So you got a curve this way at the knuckles and a curve that way. So this way and that way. So longest finger is the middle finger, index finger a little shorter, ring finger a little shorter, pinky finger shorter. Like that. So we got that. The thumb comes off from the bottom of the wrist here, and I draw towards it. So the tip of the thumb generally goes to halfway through the middle finger when you're making a fist. Then it goes back like that, and then back like that. And then when I clean it up, you can see how the thumb wraps around properly. And there it is. He's got that fist. Fist of Fury. Let's do some costuming on our boy here. Let's see how he looks without the underdrawing. It's looking good. Looking good. And I can erase some of this stuff. I don't need to see all of it. But if I'm inking from this stage, I'd keep it in so I'd see it when I do the inking and then decide, well, oh, damn, I didn't do the fist up there. Oopsie. So straight out. Straight out. This is middle. His index finger is there. Ring finger's there. Pinky curves in some. All the fingers, when you close your fist, you'll notice fold in toward the palm of your hand. A little bit taller or longer. Middle finger's the longest. Index finger's shorter. That. Boom, boom. We got that fist. 11:15 time check. Thank you. Half hour. All right, let me throw in some costume details on our Superboy here, and then I'll get to the heads. Here. Let me just look at Superboy's costume real quick. S. He's got a belt. Oh, he's got a leg strap on that one. Hold on, let me turn this off. So it comes down to a point that is off center. The S is the regular S, point off center, one leg strap there, two on the calf, and two waist belts for some reason. All right, let's see. So I'll just keep that turned on. So the S, it's up to me. I'll give it a nice big S shield. So it goes right below his rib cage. And then this is off center, and it looks like it comes down from his waist. Like this. It's probably the same height on the other side. He's got two belts. Now, Gary drew him, remember, straight on. My guy's going back a little bit in perspective, so I need to curve the belt with the figure that I drew. That's one. He's got another one that's a little higher. I don't really understand why he has these belts. And just to help show the kind of like twist and crunch in his body here, I'm going to angle this one a little bit more on the outside to show the stretch. So when I turn it off, you can kind of see it like that and go through and just erase out ever so slightly. That. And then you see they curve around his form properly. Like that. And then he's got booties, hernia belts, maybe. He's got a boot that's a little higher than halfway. Want to make sure it curves around his leg properly. So if I were to draw through, I mean, I saw he has a strap around his boot. He has one strap. Like that. He's got two straps on his leg. Where are they at? No, he's got two on his boot, one on his leg. All right, let me do the other one. Like that. Nice. And erase a little bit of that out. A little bit of this out. He's got one here. It's kind of thick. Oh yeah, Superboy's coming together. To me, the jacket made him stand out, gave him a teen angst rebellious side. Yeah. I think his gloves are just short little gloves that have like this fold over here. I don't know what you'd call it. But I don't think you can see it anyhow because of the jacket. I believe that's how his gloves are. I don't really care that much. Because like I said, I think the jacket sleeve might obscure it some. But if it does, I can just erase it. And then this glove, you're only going to see the back part right here because of the foreshortening of his hand and stuff. Maybe a little bit there. All right, let me get into the heads. Let me just throw the jacket on this dude real quick. Why not? Little thing we all have called a neck hole. That's where the neck comes out of. Helps to establish that. So when you do a jacket or shirt, you know the neck hole can't be encroached on. What's up, Andy? He says. Radamessa, Dela Cruz. So jacket comes around. This arm is back, so I'm going to pull the jacket back some. This arm is up, so it's lifting the jacket up like that. Plus, I want to show more of his torso, so I'm not going to have the jacket close. So the jacket comes back. It's a waistcoat, so if it was hanging down, it would hang down to here, but it's coming back, so it rotates back up to here. And then you can draw the back side of it. Same here, up like this. And then draw the back side that we wouldn't see, but I do these curves because that edge shows me where the front edge of the jacket would disappear. Or not disappear, but so this curves like this. Jacket, here's his sleeve, but once again, it's pulling it back, so it will curve that way. So that's the seam of his sleeve. I'll get into the wrinkles later, but I'll outline the jacket like this. This is the open part by the wrist. And then his arm is raised, which is going to pull the jacket back some. If you raise your arm wearing a jacket or a long sleeve shirt, it's going to pull back. Maybe not that much. We'll say it pulls back about this much. And then there's the seam of his sleeve. And then I'll get into the detail of the wrinkles later, but it will come down and then attach. The sleeve on a jacket at the shoulder is a little wider than at the wrist. And then the wrist just comes down and would follow the curve to the seam like this. Like I said, I'll get into the wrinkles later. This is just the basic to show you guys. Thicker there. And then this bunches up here and it would accordion these wrinkles here. This one pulls back, so there'd be a little accordion type shape. There's the wrinkles crunched together on the jacket. And he's got a collar. Collar is pulled up, not folded down. So the collar comes around and then goes down. And then here, collar's up, but it's going to bunch up some here because of the shoulder being raised up. And then you'll get the front of the jacket overlapping that sleeve a tiny bit as it comes out like this, and then you won't see this part of the lat anymore. And then same here. You won't see this. Jacket goes back. This is the front of the jacket here, going down like this. And the material is getting pushed together some. So you could do that and then draw through that wrinkle as it bellows back and then comes back around like that, going behind the sleeve. And then this area is behind. So when I turn off that, you can kind of see the jacket a little better there. Make this sleeve a little tighter. And then when I get to the wrinkles, I'll lighten up some of the anatomy underneath more. I make this sleeve a little smaller too, the hole at the wrist. That's the basics of the jacket. Save that. And there, just cleaning this up a little bit. Detail stuff here. He's got some strap stuff on these belts. I'll have to do a little better reference job. All right, let's see if I can do anything on Freddy's head here before we wrap it. I got about 15 minutes. Could you share some advice on how to draw different poses? I could save that for a different stream. I mean, if you're struggling with different poses, you'll gain a catalog of poses in your head once you draw enough. But until then, just look at photographs or look at some of your favorite comics. And if there's a pose you like, for practice purposes, there's no reason and you can't copy a pose because you're just practicing to kind of build up the catalog in your head. All right, so let's see. I got to blow this up more. This is the bad part about digitals, being able to enlarge stuff a lot more than it would be on paper. So let's see. Reestablishing the eye line, the nose, angles out a little bit. He doesn't have a big nose. There's the base. Not worried about the details yet. He's going to be smiling some. So I'm just going to sketch in a basic smirk like that. There's his lower lip. He's a teenager. He doesn't have a big superhero chin that comes out to there. He doesn't have a big chin. So I'm going to drop his chin down just a little bit like that. Sketch in his eyebrows. And I might change the position of the eyebrows later. This is just an initial sketch in. The eyes, of course, are set back below the eyebrows. That his ear lines up with the brow. Bottom of the ear lines up with the nose. Jaw comes down. It's not going to be that really angled because he's a younger boy. He's not a full man. Cheek over here. Not a total 3/4 view of his head, so you're going to see the other side of his jawline. Neck, sternomastoid, Adam's apple, other side. I always sketch in these muscles when I'm drawing. Can't remember his hairstyle, so I know he has a curl. I'll just throw that in. Pretty sure his hair's parted on the side. I'll have to reference it later. I treat the hair as an overall mass before I get into detail stuff. Like that. Then, you can do it fluttering around or whatever. There's his eyes. So I used a pretty fat pencil here because I'm just blocking in stuff. I could print this out in blue and tighten it up, or what I might do next time I do this more, I might use a thinner pencil and do a new layer for his head to tighten it up more. But I could just leave that, and then I can just take out these construction lines. Let me reduce this down some. I mean, that kind of works for me for Freddy. let's see, just trying to read some stuff. Burn mouth. You know, past Master Dan, you're not too far off. It is kind of a burn mouth. But if I tightened it up more with a thinner brush, it would lose that. And then you would see more of how I do mouths and stuff. But I kind of see that. All right, let me see if I can get a little done here on Superboy. And then we'll be at a good place to where if I come back to continue the drawing of this on a live stream, if I decide not to print it from what I've got here, we can show other stuff. Okay, his head's tilted back a little more. Blow this up a little bit more. So you see a little bit of the bottom of his nose since his head is tilted back. Not too much though. Keep it simple. The brow. He's smiling too. So the upper curve of his lip curves a little more because his head's tilted back. His bottom lip, his mouth is going to be open a little more to show teeth. A teethy smile. His lower lip doesn't have a thick lip. His chin, not that big because he's Superboy. And then the brow, skull area goes around like this. The nose, bridge of the nose comes down. So his eyes sit back in the socket. Oh, he has sunglasses, I think. So still good to know where the eyes are, even if he's wearing sunglasses. Like that. And then curves around because we're looking up. So everything curves around. So on the side of his head, his ears are lower because we're looking up at him. Jawline. Doesn't totally flatten out, but it's a lot flatter because we're looking up at him. Now I could pop in his eyebrows. He's like, hey, smirking maybe. Look at me, I'm Superboy. But yeah, sunglasses, so I have to put those on. And his forehead recedes back a little bit because we're looking up at him. His neck isn't going to be as tall. If this was Superman, I would draw his neck the width of his chin or a little wider, but it's Superboy. So his neck isn't as wide as his chin. When I do the final inks, I can decide how defined I want his Adam's apple to be. And the collar goes back here. And then his hair, I don't remember what his hair looks like, so I'll part it in the middle. Maybe have pieces flying up like this. Like that. And then I can turn off the underdrawing. I can put, oh, I believe he has a high collar that wraps around his neck. If I remember right, I'll have to look at the reference. For now, I'm going to say it does. And then he has sunglasses on. So the sunglasses, bridge of his nose, if they're not sliding down his face. We'll make them a little curved. Like that. stem. And I can erase out this stuff. Now that I can see his sunglasses, I can decide what do I want to do with his eyebrows. And this is where artistic license comes in, because you don't see his eyes for expression, so you need his eyebrows to show the expression. What do we got? 1138. I'm doing good. So I might do one eyebrow higher like this. He's like, hey, and then this one like that. So he's got, you can tell he's got this mischievous look on his face just by his eyebrows. Widow's Peak. We block in the S. Drawn it enough, I can do it from my head. And then let me just throw on Freddie Freeman's cape and stuff. I think he's got a high collar. Yeah, he's got the rope around his neck and in the cape. Okay. So he's got the rope thingy. Like that. This curves around the top of the cape. You won't see it on this side, on the other side of his head, but then the cape comes out. Like that. And the cape back this side. And I'll do the cape however I want. I might pull the cape up this way for a design thing. Oops, let me, there we go. So it's coming back, going down here, here. I don't want to overlap his foot with it because it's behind him. So I might wrap it like that. And as a design thing, if I pull it like this curve, it kind of pulls the eye back around with Superboy. Now I might change it once I see where I'm putting the logo. But then this curve comes around if you draw through, and then it goes back in, and I might do that to where technically it goes like that, through if you draw through, and then back around. Yeah, kind of like that. So do this. So I might do it like that. And then let me just lower the opacity and lose some of this anatomy up in here. So you can see the sleeve better now that we don't need it. And I'll do the wrinkles later. There, I can do the wrinkles later. I want to pull this in tighter though. That's a fat sleeve. A little underneath the jacket there. And there you go. So now I can tighten it up more. I can probably print this out, ink it the way it is. I don't know. I'll decide. If you guys want to see me tighten it up more on a live stream, let me know and I can do that. But yeah, time's up. It is 11:43, not 45, but 43. So good enough. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. A little bit of me drawing over. I'll show you. This is the original cover to Superboy Plus from the issue I drew, and I never did get to do my cover. And somebody wants me to do a cover, my version, commission with the logo and stuff, so I am. So that's what Gary Frank did, and I'm trying to keep the feel and theme, and this is what I've got so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream, and of course, go back and check out Lilineth Infernal Conflict, cruising along on it at a nice clip. Here's a page I finished yesterday. The battle outside Demon Lord Vixarion's Obsidian Spire is raging on as Lilineth and her friends are inside trying to take down Demon Lord Vixarion. Her army is fighting his army on the outside. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. Go back, Lilineth, share it out. Sharing is caring. Let's get it up there so we can include the Bart Sears 4-page story. That'll happen at $55,000 combined total of Kickstarter and Instagram and Indiegogo. Links are in the description below. I got to run. I'll catch you guys later. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye, and have a great weekend.